but are we going to make those stays, 400 or 500 square meters and spend a lot of money on that? For me, that's not industrialization. For me, industrialization is looking at the supply chain that you have. What are the cases? What are the limitations? What are the yards? What can they do? What can you roll? So in terms of steel, you can roll a 10-meter column that's about 15 centimeters thick. So we're talking about, big steel. Pretty much everywhere in offshore yards. And monopiles right now, so when the monopile is when the bottom fits, when the sea blade goes into the bottom, you start finding yourself rolling 14, 15-meter towers, cylindrical sections, cylindricals, at about 20 centimeters, something like that, more. So more than the capacity of those rollers. So now you have to, in your cost, include the fabrication of the machine. And someone has to pay for that machine, and it's your project, and there's not that many machines in the world, so the price goes up. So be able to stick to what you have and improve it a little bit. So I'm not saying don't spend any money, but I'm saying improve to what you can do without jeopardizing the cost of the project. So make your case stronger, because we have to put a big crane. So put a mat, redistribute the load. Your channel is 9 meters. Okay, dig it to 11, 12 meters. Most yards, most ships offshore, the water depth of commercial harbors is 12 meters. That's an LNG tanker. And there's very few that are 16, 17 meters. There's quite, Port of Rotterdam, for example, for very large tankers. And there was this whole thing that's happened, in the late 90s, is we start building very, very large, they're called very, very large tankers, right. VLCs.
Those are the ones that cannot go through the Panama Canal.
Right, and they don't really go into the harbors except a few, so you offload the oil and gas offshore, so you do offshore offloading.
Right.
So you go to a smaller one that then comes in. Great concept in terms of, okay, you're transporting all those things, but economically, it's very difficult to, go into other harbor and do those things. So, so there's not that many yards that gets there. So if for floating wind we have to use those yards because our draft is at 15, 17 meters, we just cut us off of all Japan, because there's no harbors in Japan that have those water depth. Most of, except a few in Europe and in Korea, that's about it. So right. We have to stick to what we have with, obviously upgrades, buy new rollers, buy automated machines for welding and things like that, so you're not manually welding thousands of kilometers of welds, and then your welds are better, they're more precise, so your structure is better. So there is improvement and money that needs to be spent, but don't go crazy, because then the projects will not happen.
Right. So if you reuse the tools that are available, you can lower the cost significantly.
Yeah, and then going back to your Toyota production system, is now you start managing your suppliers. So you always have a little bit more suppliers than you need. So if one drops, you go back to the other one and the next one. So you always keep them busy and you shift around and you look at your loads so that everyone's busy, but you always have capacity. Because if you lose a yard and that's the only yard that can do something, and then you have to go sign a contract with someone else, you just lost 4 months on your project.
Right.
And that's expensive. So you have to build that redundancy in your supply chain.
Yeah.
And so to build that redundancy in your supply chain means that you have to have a very big supply chain, means that you have to know what's out there and be able to work with everyone. So, for us, so we can build, of course, the structure, we can build them in Korea, we can build them in China, it's probably cheaper. But we have yards, there's yards in Turkey, there's yards in Greece, there's yards in Italy, there's yards in Spain. We work with all of them. And so we build the OCG data, we build it in Vodosplit, in Split in Croatia, and the OCG wind was built in Dimitros in Greece. But then we also have Fincantieri in Italy, we have Charles in Spain, and so on. So, and Spain has built a lot of others. Navantia has built a lot of other things for the North Sea. So we're working with everyone, and we have to keep everyone busy, and everyone has to know what we do, so we can always go back to them. That's part of, for me, that's a very big part of industrialization.